Today I would like to encourage you from the book of Esther, chapter 4, verse 12. And the Bible reads, "When Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" The Bible here tells us the story of Esther. Esther was an orphaned Jewish young girl who was being cared for by Mordecai. The Bible tells us that Mordecai and Esther were captives in Babylon. That's where they were living, in a foreign land. And during that time, the Bible tells us that the king of Babylon's wife became disobedient to him, and his officials advised him to divorce her, and then they would gather all the beautiful young virgins in the nation of Babylon, and they would be gathered before the king, and he would be able to choose one of them as his wife. So the exercise was taken, and all the young girls were brought, including Esther. And by the grace of God, Esther, this orphaned Jewish young girl, was loved by the king, and she became the wife of the king of Babylon. Esther became the wife to the most powerful man on earth, the richest man on earth, the most influential man on earth, and that was the king of Babylon. Esther became the most powerful woman, the most influential woman. She became the queen of Babylon. And after Esther had become the queen of Babylon, one of the officials of the king of Babylon gave a decree that he cunningly drafted, and the king passed it. And that decree was for all the Jewish people to be annihilated, to be killed. And Mordecai, who had raised up Esther, went to Esther and said, "Please help us." But Esther thought twice about that and said, "It's impossible for me to help you, because if I try to raise my voice and approach the king, I might be killed or lose my marriage, because the other woman who was married to the king disobeyed him, and she lost her marriage. So it might not end up well with me." But when Esther said those words, Mordecai responded and said, "Don't think that you amongst all the Jewish people will escape. Even if you escape, deliverance will come from another place, because God will surely deliver us. And who knows, maybe you have become queen for such a time as this." In other words, Mordecai was saying maybe God knew this day was coming, and he planned it so that you, who is now the queen, would be able to influence the king to act against this law, and thereby lead to the deliverance and the salvation of Jewish people. Maybe God has been working through it, and he has been preparing you for such a time as this. Maybe God has it in his mind that you may be the prime instrument that he may use to save these people. Maybe God has given you those blessings for such a time as this. I'm always encouraged by the testimony of Dr. Moffat Zimba and his wife, Dr. Mrs. Zimba. They had the privilege of living in Zambia with abject poverty that is there in our nation. And during that time, they had challenges of going to college. And by the grace of God, they had the privilege of going to Australia, then went to the USA. And after they stayed for a number of years in America and got a very good education, they decided to go back to Zambia and start a university. And when they started sharing their vision to people, most people laughed at them and they said, you know what, why do you even want to go back to Africa when you've got a good job here, your wife is working for Microsoft, and you are living comfortably the American dream? Why don't you just stay here and enjoy your lives instead of going back to Africa and suffering like other Africans suffer in poverty? When Moffat and Doreen Zimba heard those words, they said, we have to go back. Because God brought us here in America, gave us a good education for such a time as this, for us to be able to go back to Africa and be a blessing to other Africans. After Moffat and Doreen Zimba went back to Zambia, Africa, they faced a number of challenges, but finally, by the grace of God, the university was established. And I am grateful because I'm one of the beneficiaries of Northrise University. That's why I got my first degree. If they had not gone back to Zambia, I would not have had my first degree. But they did, and I have it now. Why? Because they understood that God brought them to America, gave them all the good privileges that they had for a time such as that. I wonder, could God be working for a time in your life? Could there be a reason why God raised you among all your siblings and took you to university and gave you a good job? Could there be a reason why amongst all the people in that orphanage, you have been privileged to have a good job, a good education, and you are wonderfully married? I wonder, could there be a reason that amongst all the many millions of people that are suffering in the world, you have been privileged to live in a country where you continue to flourish and have your needs met? Could there be a reason behind that? I wonder, could there be a reason why you are a millionaire today, a billionaire today? Could there be a reason why you have so much wealth, so much resources around you? Could there be a reason? The Bible tells us that Mordecai spoke to Esther and said, maybe God has put you to be the most powerful woman on earth, the most influential woman on earth for such a time as this, so that you may go out and reach out to the Jewish people and God may bring deliverance through you. I believe there is a purpose for your life. There is a reason why God has blessed you. There is a reason why God has educated you. There is a reason why God has given you that marriage. There is a reason why God took you to university. And I encourage you not to be greedy and selfish. I encourage you to step out. Use the gifts that God has given to you to save humanity, to bless lives, to transform lives, to reach out to many more people so that other people can be able to experience the joy, the blessings that you have. God has blessed you for such a time as this.